So listen, obviously we got to start the show with the big news in the NBA yesterday. My New York Knicks, who finally seemed to get their act together, right? Greatest season this century. And they fire their coach, Tom Thibodeau. He gets fired yesterday in like the middle of the show? Alex and I were stunned. That was closer to the end of the show. And one interesting nugget trickled out overnight regarding how this happened. Because remember, a lot of folks, myself included, thought that maybe you just bring Thibodeau back and you run it back. You know, you guys 2 games away from the NBA Finals, took down the defending champion Celtics. Why not run it back? But this nugget trickled out of the exit interviews. Apparently, when the Knicks were interviewing Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, one certain person in the organization happened to sit in on those exit interviews, and that was James Dolan, who's largely been a ghost the last 5 years. Do you like that play on words there? Dolan has not been around the Knicks because he's been running the Sphere in Vegas and getting that off the ground, and obviously that's a great win for Mr. Dolan. But sitting in on the exit interviews, and all of a sudden, boom, the head coach is gone, you have to wonder, did he hear something he didn't like? Well, we know that something did not come from Jalen Brunson, who staunchly defended his coach after the Knicks were eliminated by the Pacers. We had a reporter say, well, what do you think about Tibbs? Is he going to make it back? And Brunson was like, is that a real question? We know Brunson likes Tibbs. He's known Tibbs since he was a young guy. Rick Brunson, his father, who's now on the Knicks staff, played for the Knicks. And there's a lot of internal stuff. Brunson and Thibodeau were copacetic. But what we do know is that Josh Hart had beef at points this season with Thibodeau. And Mikal Bridges, as recently as the middle of March, piped up, why aren't we playing our bench? Why are we playing so many minutes? What's going on here? I mean, and the numbers bear it out. The Knicks starters averaged more points per game than any other starting unit in the last 45 years in the NBA. Tibbs does not trust his bench, right? That's very well known. Happened in Chicago. Unfortunately, after that, you saw Derrick Rose wear down. You saw Joakim Noah. Like these guys' careers, Luol Deng, their careers kind of ended early because Tibbs ran them into the ground. And the Knicks players clearly pushed back on that. Bridges actually mentioned in March, yeah, we got Landry Shamet. Why isn't he playing more? Well, Tibbs, I guess, saw the light and started playing Landry Shamet in the Pacers series. But unfortunately, it was a little bit too late. Landry Shamet couldn't save the day. So now you have to wonder, like, does this change the trajectory of, say, Karl Anthony Towns? Now, we know he is a Tibbs guy dating back to Minnesota. Is he all of a sudden on the trading block? Like, what happens? Mikal Bridges, who was had for 5 first-round picks and is looking for a big money extension, do you pay him? Do you try to get 3 guys to create him in the aggregate next year? Does this mess everything up? But most importantly, where do the Knicks head for a head coach? And I do want to quickly defend Tibbs. Just give me a second. There was a 19-year stretch where the Knicks won 1 playoff series, okay? Thibodeau has won 4 in the last 3 seasons. He has been successful. Look at this. Under Tom Thibodeau, 5 seasons, 4 playoff appearances, and you see that winning record there? I know this is going to be surprising. He has more wins with the Knicks than Pat Riley. That's just a mind-blowing stat. Like, Tom Thibodeau's been great. And we should also add, before Tibbs came on board, 18 seasons, 12 different head coaches. So they finally get their act together, and now we're back in the head coaching cycle for the Knicks. And we decided we'd come up with 5 potential names to replace Tom Thibodeau. Now, we just had Mitch Lawrence on, and he broke it down in an interesting way. He's like, listen, man, MSG is a pit full of vipers. Because it's so insular and they don't talk to the media really, nobody knows who's really making this decision. Like Leon Rose had hired his guy, Tibbs. Well, did Leon Rose fire his guy or did Dolan step in? Is Jim Dolan back in charge and he's going to flex and throw his weight around? And so there's a bit of a mystery as to, will Rose get his guy? Will the players have a say? We know it's a players' league. Or is the owner just going to steamroll everybody and say, this is what I want? So I came up with 5 guys, and then we'll have like a special mystery guy at the end, which I'll go a little longer on. But the first guy I'm going to bring up is Mark Jackson. Nobody's talking about Mark Jackson whatsoever. He's, yeah, I'm on the right side. But listen, this is a guy who was in Golden State for the early Splash Brothers, and he got run off The worst part for Mark Jackson was right after he got run off, Steve Kerr made a little tweak, right? He put Draymond Green into the death lineup. They went small ball, and they made the jump to light speed, and the Warriors never looked back. They became a dynasty. And depending on who you talk to, it's like, oh, well, Mark Jackson couldn't figure it out. We needed Steve Kerr to do that. Now, Mark Jackson is a legend in New York City, okay? Born in Queens, like myself. I thought I was a point guard. He actually was a point guard. Went to St. John's, legendary player at St. John's. Went with the Knicks, Mr. Shimmy. I mean, Mark Jackson needs no introduction. The problem is he had some off-court stuff that kind of carried over, and then the Warriors thing he never was able to rebound from that, and he never got a second chance, which I think is kind of BS. He went to be an announcer, and then he got shoved out of that. So Mark Jackson's just out there. And my gut tells me Dolan, wanting to win over the fans, is going to bring in Mark Jackson for an interview. I don't know if he'll get it, but he's on the list. I think the next guy you got to bring up is Michael Malone. Now, Michael Malone won a title in Denver a couple years ago, and we talked with Mitch Lawrence a little while ago talking about Thibodeau getting fired. He raved about Michael Malone.
It's a treacherous place if you're a coach because you're the guy who's the face of the franchise. They don't let Leon Rose talk. Dolan doesn't talk. So Tom Thibodeau was the guy who had to talk. Nobody's held accountable in terms of Leon Rose or Jim Dolan. It's run differently than any other organization, and it's been unsuccessful in a lot of ways. It's the anti-Spurs, anti-Miami Heat, whatever you want to call it. They do things their own way. And for the most part, before Time came on board, they were irrelevant and a dumpster fire. And I think Knicks fans probably fear now that's the road they're headed back on.
So if you listen closely, Mitch was like, listen, they don't like dealing with the media. Thibodeau did not like dealing with the media. He just wouldn't give much, wouldn't talk a lot. You know who doesn't mind mixing it up with the media? Michael Malone. He'll go right back at you guys. And you know why? Because he won a title with Denver. And he talked trash and backed it up. Now, the interesting thing is, I had a Knicks fan tell me, listen, who was Jokic when he came into the league? Second-round pick. Give me a break. Karl Anthony Towns, you don't think Michael Malone could work with him and take his defense from a D-plus to a B-minus? Could he get him to a C-plus? Michael Malone really did help Jokic a lot. Why couldn't he do that with Cat? And I, remember, I was pushing Michael Malone during the Detroit series. We could pull that video if you really want to. I know you don't care. But then I backed off when he beat the Celtics. And Malone really does feel like Thibodeau 2.0. All right, next name on the list, again, kind of going off the board here. Steve Nash. Anyone? Steve Nash, coached in Brooklyn. It's funny because Steve Nash was great with the Warriors as like a specialty coach. Kevin Durant loved him. And then Kevin Durant pushed for him when he got to Brooklyn with Kyrie. But what Kevin Durant didn't know is Kyrie Irving was kind of sort of losing his mind at the time and wanted nothing to do with Steve Nash. He famously went on like an Instagram Live or whatever and was like, KD and I, with our IQ, we don't even need a coach. And I told the story how Steve Nash was in New York. Kyrie said, oh, yeah, come to my place to meet me. And Steve Nash, in the rain, went there, and Kyrie just left him on the doorstep for like 20 minutes ringing the doorbell. Just wouldn't answer it. As like hey, man, I know you're the coach, but I'm the guy. I built this super team. And it was like, whoa, they got off on the wrong foot. Nash did not last long in Brooklyn. But he's now partnered with LeBron on a podcast, and we know that worked out well for LeBron's last podcast partner, JJ Redick. Let's see who else we got. We got Mike Brown. Anyone? Mike Brown's kind of been around the league. Smart guy. I don't want to say he got railroaded in Sacramento, but it just didn't really pan out for him. Obviously a very good coach in Cleveland. He's been around the league, is considered a defensive guy, which is pretty good, especially when you factor in how bad the Knicks defense was against the Pacers. I believe they gave up 126 points per game in the losses in the series. And it's like, that was Tibbs' calling card. He couldn't deliver. Can Mike Brown get the defense up to snuff? And finally, I'm going off the board here, Sam Cassell. Everybody knows him. Great celebration guy, Sam Cassell. We won't talk about the celebration. Halliburton mimicked it. But Cassell is known as a player's coach. Colin always laughs when I say this phrase, but Sam Cassell's a cool guy. He's funny. He was a great point guard. And I do believe he could connect with these guys in a way Tibbs, who's 67 and much older than Cassell, Tibbs didn't really connect with Bridges and Hart. And that came out in the media. Could Cassell be the guy? So those are the 5 guys that I think will certainly get interviews and deep looks. Michael Malone, obviously, everybody loves that. Mike Brown, I haven't heard as much about. Nash, I don't know if I was the first to float him yesterday right after it broke. Sam Cassell and Mark Jackson. So now I'm going to go with the other guy. And I was not convinced of this. And we had a heated 4-minute debate in the meeting this morning about whether or not Jason Kidd is a viable candidate for the Knicks job. Jason Kidd was the point guard with Carmelo Anthony when the Knicks had a really good run, 10 years ago. The problem, of course, is Jason Kidd is currently under contract with the Dallas Mavericks. But let's be real. Jason Kidd may not love it in Dallas. They get to the finals with Luka and then don't consult Jay Kidd, and they trade Luka to the Lakers. And Jason Kidd, we don't have video of it, but if you look at the post-Luka trade press conference, Jason Kidd is staring straight ahead like he saw a ghost. Yeah, we're doing one ghost reference an hour, people. And I'm a Knicks fan. I don't know if the Knicks next season is an upgrade from the Mavs. Let me explain. Yes, the Knicks are in the East. No Tatum. Celtics pull back. Knicks are going to be one of the 3 best in the East. Dallas gets Cooper Flagg. They have Anthony Davis, Gafford for now, Derek Lively, PJ Washington, and Kyrie Irving's hurt and will be out. I'm going to generously say the All-Star break, maybe March 1st. So there will be some struggles. Here's why I think Dallas is interesting. Given the number 1 pick of Cooper Flagg, I believe they will be active in free agency and they will be making trades. I think Gafford is gone. I think you could probably trade Gafford to a team looking to off-road salary. And hello, Drew Holiday and the Boston Celtics. So now, if you're just looking at a playoff lineup in Dallas, potentially, Drew Holiday, Kyrie Irving, PJ Washington, Lively, and AD, that's maybe a truck in the West. And my main man, Cooper Flagg, future NBA MVP, Cooper Flagg, would be your 6th man. Supermax Christie, 7th man. I know, Supermax, ha ha ha. Folks, that's a hell of a lineup. The Knicks have some flexibility this offseason, but when you look at the roster, it's like, are they too top heavy? And I don't know how much movement they'll actually make. So could you convince Jason Kidd, hey man, we're going to trade for you? Then the other problem is the Knicks don't have a ton of assets to trade for Jason Kidd. And oh, by the way, they owe $30 million to Tom Thibodeau. So now you're giving up assets, then you got to pay J. Kidd, and you still got to pay Thibodeau? It doesn't seem like a winning play for the Knicks. It's weird. I didn't like the Mavs trade at all, but then they get Cooper Flagg in the lottery, and now I've got to get back to being a Mavs fan. I loved them when they had Luka just because I like Luka. But the Knicks, everybody's painting this is a great job. Is it? I don't know. The Phoenix Suns just hired a guy named Jordan Ott. Just kidding. Jordan Ott. I have no idea who that guy is. The Phoenix Suns are clearly hitting the detonation button on the franchise. It's probably going to be Devin Booker and a bunch of dudes because Bradley Beal's going to waive his no-trade clause and be gone. But, that's what the Suns were picking. Jordan Ott. So why are we mentioning for the Knicks Michael Malone? Maybe he wants to go into TV. We saw him during, I think it was Western Conference Finals. We saw him on TV talking about how SGA was the real MVP. Thought it was a shot at Joker. I digress. But it's like, is the Knicks job that good? On the surface, hell yeah. Just went to the conference finals, 2 games from the NBA finals. So Jason Kidd's an interesting name. My guess is it doesn't happen, but we know his history with the Knicks. He's a Hall of Fame point guard. If you're making a list of all-time great point guards, Kidd has to be top 6, right? I mean, this is one of the great point guards in NBA history. So I don't know. It's going to be fascinating. Knicks head coaching watch. Oof, can't wait.